good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Depends on where you all are. Welcome to the third part of season three's discussion on Babylon 5. I have with us Mike from Pacific 414.
Good
Uh,
evening, all.
hmm, I have beneath him Cash Monet of the Phantom Hooligans.
He's a
That's right.
non. Why is the non here?
I don't know. He just snuck his way in.
That's
And
right.
Space Jesus. Now that could either be Krit or it could be Phil. I think it's Krit. Lord Krit. Yep,
Yeah.
Everest Productions is
It's
here.
Everest Productions, yes. The
Now we don't
Orca.
have Space Jesus yet. We're not that far, man.
Um,
We're not
nope.
that far.
Nope. We're not. We're not.
And busy day today for most of us, streaming and all
Mhm.
that. It's got off of
Mhm.
Mike's members stream that was able to be seen by the public. It was fun, very fun.
It was an enjoyable time by all, and
Mhm.
that's what they're supposed to be.
And Cash was washing dishes most of the time.
No, I had to go to the store.
I knew it. Got to get the kale and the
I had
tofu. Yeah,
I had to get groceries for the family, so yeah.
there we go. What? Look at how good he is, man. You want to have Cash Money as your son. I'm adopting you. So come on out to Minnesota here, and I'll trade my daughter for you. So your family can have my daughter.
Yes.
I always wanted to have a non-slave. You know. So,
Hilarious.
and of course, thank you all of you for joining us. And we are now, like I said, we're halfway through now. We're
Mhm.
getting past some of the very pivotal episodes. I wouldn't say we have totally filler episodes, but a couple might be considered that. I think we will stop before we go to one of the more pivotal two parts of the series. So, I suppose without any further ado, there we go. Look at that. Oh, poor Delin. We are looking at the episode called Ceremonies of Light and Dark. And basically, Night Watch, you have basically a Night Watch acting like werewolves. And no, I'm not talking about the mythical turning into a wolf, but after World War II, uh, basically the Germans that didn't want to accept defeat came little terrorist cells, and they were known as Werewolves, or the German equivalent, which I cannot speak. So you kind of have that problem on board Babylon 5. They're on board and they want to target Delenn to cause a strife between Babylon 5 and the Minbari. And Lord Rifa and Londo, they have a little talk. And I suppose it's all about the shadows. So, gentlemen, um, let us get into this episode. Um, so it looks like we learned a lot of stuff, but they're kind of like Rome, the Centauri.
Mm-hmm.
They like using poison as a tool. So and we also learned that many humans out there are more than happy to, or more not, but learn the language of the Minbari as POWs during the Earth Minbari War, which I find interesting because it was a war of basically genocide. But you did have some POWs that learned the language, and we have kind of questions: is what's going on? How many of these werewolf night watches are on there, and what's with the stupid computer? So there's a new AI computer that bonds, and I use that loosely, with Garibaldi. So, gentlemen, your take on this episode as it's coming off of the basically part three of the arc of breaking away from Earth.
I thought it was interesting, and interesting how certain things were portrayed, and
Mhm. Right. And obviously, as you can see, they have, of course, Delenn herself all kidnapped and very, very defiant, and you can't blame her for doing that.
nope.
Well, they want to break it up, everything, considering this is the they're severing ties with Earth, severing ties with Earth. Excuse me. That that they have to deal with the fallout. But as we know, the president is a jackass.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
on
we're
five,
talking about Babylon 5 president
that's right.
of
Yeah.
YouTube. Don't strike
That's
us.
right. That's right.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Hmm.
And the thing is, you start learning how there are people on Babylon 5 who do not agree with Babylon 5 breaking away from Earth.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. Right. Because they have such loyalty, and Night Watch is still a problem, unfortunately. And
Hmm.
you
Oh
gotta
yeah, they're like the
get
brown
rid of
shirts,
that.
the SA. They're
Get rid of
they're
that
true
that
believers.
problem.
Mhm.
Get rid of that
And
issue. Yeah. Mhm.
and it shows that not everybody, throughout history was that way. Just because your organization broke away didn't mean you agreed with it,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you want to do something about it, as is the case
Mhm.
here. I suppose I should
As,
continue the side.
as many people who would be sympathizers for Babylon 5 breaking away, there are just as many loyalists to
Mhm.
Earth.
Hmm. Just like the Revolutionary War, where you had loyalists still with the colonies, and
Right.
after the war they left. But
Yes.
I'm sure there were some malcontents that were more than happy to cause problems.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dwarf for you. That guy looks like a dwarf. And of course, Marcus is getting information of where poor Dylan might be after being kidnapped.
Hmm.
And okay, well, there we go. Everybody's favorite.
Yeah. She's.
She means business all the time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I wish
There
we
are
had
some
strong women.
there's some interesting stuff about this episode.
Hmm.
There was her wanting to do that rebirth ceremony, and wasn't
Hmm.
was this was this during everyone's favorite arc, the roundabout or walkabout?
No, we haven't gotten there yet.
No,
We haven't
no,
gotten there
not
yet.
yet.
Oh,
Hmm.
there um there was there was a lot of interesting stuff with Riva and
Hmm.
Londo, and I think Londo was starting to realize that Mr. Morden, he shouldn't have done it, or
Hmm.
so to speak, and
Yep.
Hmm.
yeah, it's a lot. It's kind of hard because it's one of those episodes that kind of just goes by and you can't remember much from it.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
but
Hmm.
yeah,
But they're more than happy to kill Benbari.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's basically the lead malcontent of it, who is holding hostage and causing problems. There's a backstory that wasn't told in the story, but the scars that he got was when he jumped a bunch of guys that were trying to uh, force their way on a woman, and that's when he got sliced. So, I mean, this is a guy obviously who thinks he's doing right, and he thinks he's doing the right thing.
Hmm.
A true believer. So it's interesting to see that with a character that would, one moment try to protect, and then the next moment try to kill.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're saying, you had that little conversation between him and Rifa, talking about the poison. But let's talk about the real serious thing about the AI computer, Sparky the computer.
It's not
Garibaldi's
working
new friend.
properly.
Hmm?
I was going to say it's not working properly.
Or maybe too properly. That's the case. And for anybody who didn't know, the voice of Sparky the computer was done by Harlan Ellison himself. And taking a look at some of the pictures back and forth. But one very important change came out of this episode. besides Sparky. And we'll get there here shortly. Because it shows the full transition away from being Earth and being something more. As you can see, Sheridan's not wearing his uniform. Doesn't feel like he should wear it, even though the others are.
Mm-hmm.
No confrontation between Londo and good old Rifa.
Yes.
Talk about poisons, antidotes. You're going to do what I'm going to say or else. And of course, Mr. Mordens himself. But we also have the funeral for those that passed away on board Babylon 5. There they are in their dress uniforms. There's a lot of pictures. Oh, there we go. They're going to try.
They're going to try to assassinate him.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't happen. They don't want to take the hell. Garibaldi, of course, hurts his arm. And I think in real life, that's what happened. That's why he's wearing that. Okay, well, there we go. And this happens. They get new uniforms. Delenn gives them new uniforms. They become officially now the Army of Light. Poised to gear up to not only fight the corruption on Earth, but of course the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
I love those uniforms. Those are great uniforms.
Yeah, they're cool. Not bad.
I like them better than the other uniforms, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly. They are, really spiffy, and they all look good in there.
They look sharp.
Mm-hmm. Any last thoughts on this episode?
I wouldn't say this episode's filler because you definitely need to watch it to see the transition that's continuing to go on since the separation of Earth.
Mm-hmm. Right. So yeah, I have to agree with you there. It's not quite a filler, but maybe stretched out a little bit too much. Would that be considered the case?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they could have put some of the elements in this episode or into another episode as the B plot.
Mm-hmm. I agree. But Sparky was a throw-in.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let's keep things moving, shall we? Let's not oops, I want to present. But you know what? I'm an idiot. But you know that already.
You're not an idiot.
Oh, I am. There you go. So the next episode we have coming up here is called Sic Transit Vir, which is kind of a Latin thing about thus passes the man, basically. It's a pun of the title that they have on there. We learn little things like Ivanova has been in the military for 13 years. Centauri are attempting to pacify the darn home world, obviously. And one of the things is to, needless to say, put their soldiers into darn villages and root out the aggressive citizens and put them to sleep, you might say. Some villages absolutely destroyed by the Centauri. So obviously they're going in and being incredibly, shall we say, cruel across the board. Basically, acts of war crimes and such. And as it goes up, Vir is being kind of
suspect.
Yeah, on something because he's doing something to help out on there. So Londo is introducing Vir to a new acquaintance, basically trying to hook him up, you might say, which is the proper Centauri way of doing things. So
yeah, an arranged marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for Vir, right?
Mm-hmm. 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 And he's not for it. And there she is. That is the young Centauri that he
Well,
wants to know
Veer's
about it.
confused because it's like, how can you love me? You don't even know me.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes. Mhm.
And for the Centauri, it doesn't really matter on that one because marriages are forged for, what would you say, political more than
Political
anything else.
or
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, probably. Yeah.
It's status.
Yeah.
Hmm. But they also found out something interesting. There is an underground railroad for Narns going on there, and they need to
Mhm.
find out what's going on. What is this going on here? And the name of the person is Abrahamo Lincoln, and happened to fake death certificates for over 2,000 Narns, but they're
Mhm.
being run through Babylon 5 like an underground railroad.
Yep.
Little DJ Ronnie G, welcome to the show.
And that's taking a lesson from history that was happening during the Civil War, where
Yes.
people were being taken from the south to the north in the
Mm-hmm.
underground railroads.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and it's of course if you're having a little bit of an understanding of human history, but of course, needless to say, Sheridan kind of knows about that. But as we kind of go along, we start finding out that this young lady that he wants to have Vera married to is more than happy to oppress the Narn and even kill them.
Right.
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, she is more than happy to, which of course
Mhm.
Vera is just aghast about. He is not interested in.
Yeah, because she buys into literally all the politics that the Narn
Mm-hmm.
are completely evil. All of them are, and they deserve to be eradicated.
Mm-hmm.
A very extreme point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's very much propaganda.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Something that you would have had in throughout history.
Mhm.
No,
Yes.
let's face it. Many there were some in the time of the Civil War thought that blacks were not truly human.
Right.
Of course, you had other uh, groups of people out there didn't think certain groups of people were human and needed to be
Mhm.
disposed of. But needless to say, he's not happy. He's
Mhm.
not happy with what's going on because more than anything, it's going to affect him.
Mm-hmm. And we all know Londo cares more about his career than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Right, and right in his career, but more importantly, this entire republic. He wants to make this entire republic great again. So it's kind of um, a double, desires that he has with that. And so, yeah, it's any thoughts or such. I mean, this episode obviously is not a big, heavy episode. There's not much. Basically, it's all kind of centered on the travels of Vera. It's really giving you a chance to have
Mhm.
Stefan first shine in this part. That his acting chops.
Well, I think it's a great episode, all because it shows that Veer is not like every Centauri.
Mm-hmm.
He sees what's happening to the Narn and he wants to deliver him to freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when Sheridan and the crew of Babylon 5 find out about this, they let him know that you're facing serious charges because
Mm-hmm.
they think they're all dead.
Right.
And then Veer
Exactly.
reveals that they're not all dead, they're
Mm-hmm.
alive.
And in some ways, she's kind of excited about the fact that maybe he was involved with killing all these Narn.
Hmm. Although I know this is a nitpick, I wasn't impressed with her acting.
Mm-hmm.
It was all right. Could have been worse, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody puts in a stellar performance.
Right.
Mhm. She seemed a little too, I don't know, not ditzy, but
Mhm.
Psychotic.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
maybe that's where she thought the role was supposed to go. But of course, the director should have helped out a little bit more on that if that was the case. The director for this was Jesus Trevino, who did a lot of episodes of Babylon 5 on that one.
Yeah, and I believe he did direct a few episodes of DS9 as well.
I think you're right. And of course, there's a little, I believe, Narn on Centauri violence involving the two of them, and she basically finds the one and ties him up and gives Veer the honor to kill him. And
yep, they go back to his quarters, and he sees the Narn tied up on the floor, and he refuses.
Which, of course, pisses her off.
Right, because she feels she gave this gift to him.
Right. She is a true believer.
Yes.
So, any thoughts? Any more thoughts? That you had for this episode? What they had going on in there with everything. I think this episode also we kind of found out that Veer was a bit of a virgin. That he's only gone with one tentacle, one of his little tentacles, instead of all six. So he's rather innocent and pure. When it comes around to characters, he's innocent and pure. He really is.
Well, I think this was a good character growth for Veer because it shows you what kind of character he is. Unlike Londo, Veer has more compassion, empathy.
Right. And and she's just that crazy, as DJ Try G says. True believer. True believer. Okay. And there's not really much to talk about this episode because of, basically it's self-contained. And I suppose you could kind of call it a little bit of a filler episode that they have on this one. But again, it's a character building episode, in my opinion, with helping the character of Veer, because I suppose people don't. There might have been people that weren't taking Stefan Furst really serious. They know him as Flounder from Animal House, or his performance on Saint Elsewhere, and playing kind of the goofy thing. And you kind of start going. It's like I was wondering when they first started having this. Are you going to have? Are you going to have Flounder in space with this, or are we going to have something? More, and you saw where it almost seemed like it was Flounder in space, but then the character grew more. And of course, there's the Regent on Babylon 5. He will be important as the show goes along, especially when we start seeing the new Emperor. Any other thoughts on this episode?
I can't add any more than what I've already said.
Oh yeah, can't forget about Ivanova's dream.
I was going to leave that. I was going to leave that to you. I mean, heck, I think I would be staring myself.
Yeah, I definitely would be. Yes. I definitely would be, and of course, waking up like that from it. The classic dream of walking naked into the someplace, being out there, and Lord knows I've had those dreams. Those are scary. Those are definitely scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would enjoy that site. I'm not going to lie. So, okay, we'll move on. Next episode.
Phil, did you have anything to say about?
Oh, Phil. Yeah, sorry, Phil. Speak up, Mr. Phil. Speak up.
Now, the only thing I got to say, and there'll probably be a little bit on referred to maybe as hateful. To me, it's the French episode, man. The whole culture and everything, it's all French, man. So this was a French episode, Only thing missing is the caviar.
Well,
So I
I
do
think it's
like the
cool.
idea of walking in your sleep and being naked in front of everybody that you think
Mhm.
and then waking up and realizing no, that it was just a dream, but
It's just a dream, yeah.
just a dream for some and a nightmare for others.
Yeah, for her, it's a nightmare. It'll be a dream for me to see that. That's for sure. But yeah, I had to wait a few years for that to happen with a certain magazine that she posed in. You find it out for yourself, folks. But you say French, but wouldn't there be a little correlation between the American Civil War and even some of the Roman Empire with this? With
Yeah, more
uh,
French.
more French?
More French. Maybe,
Really?
maybe a little bit. You can probably throw a little mix there of Russian, but
Hmm,
more French.
okay.
Anytime, like I said, every time it is, I see the emperor. The first thing I think is, that's a French king.
Mhm. Well, we haven't seen the Emperor yet. That happens next season. So, um, but of course, but with the slave trade though, we really didn't have anything like that with the French, where they had underground railroads like the U.S. did. Did I make him? Wow,
No,
those
no,
speechless.
no, no. Just listening.
Oh, well, okay.
The French.
We.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh, and I'm gonna have to apologize, everybody. This is gonna be more of a quicker episode because I've been streaming all day, and I know many people on my panel have been. So,
What, you don't
um,
have any energy?
oh, I'm starting to run low. I'm starting to run low. I mean,
I
do
thought
about
you'd
10
be.
hours of
I
streaming.
thought it would be a revitalization.
Well, that's why I'm talking now. That's why I'm excited. That's why I'm happy to see you and Orca Boy and all that.
Oh, you're not happy to see me. No, no, no.
I'm happy to see
Nah.
you. Come on. Everybody's happy to see Phil, except for Cash. So this next episode, and I would say it's a bit of a filler episode, but delves into a little bit of the history of Babylon 5, particularly the Earth-Minbari War. Has a guest star, a major guest star in this one, of Michael York, who I'm sure people know from, of course, the Austin Powers movie, but also
Mhm.
Logan Run. And there he is.
Yep.
Episode's called Late Delivery from Avalon. And for some reason, this man coming on board the station thinks he's King Arthur. And he proceeds to go around armored and sword and trying to defend the people on board there. And amongst this mess, Sheridan and Ivanova are trying to gain recognition from the other alien governments about the new status, the Army of Light status, the neutral status of Babylon 5. So you have the political and you got the unique thing with this man coming on board calling himself Arthur.
I'm disappointed in you, Baron.
What?
The two most iconic roles that Michael York played, and you didn't mention either one.
Cabaret?
No.
What?
The Three Musketeers.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And he played
And-
John the Baptist in what is it? The Jesus one with the guy with the blue eyes that spooks everybody.
Well, that's a lot of them. Are you talking about
Jesus of Nazareth? There he was. He was John the Baptist.
You didn't mention a big one.
Mm.
You didn't mention Logan's Run.
I did.
He did.
Oh,
Mhm.
oh, he did. Oh,
Yeah, I said Logan 5 of Logan Run. Yeah.
okay.
That's where a lot of people know him from, and also Austin Power. Cabaret. In fact, J. Michael Zinski was such a fan of that movie, he had his laser desk signed by Michael York when he was on the set. So, but he thinks he's Arthur.
Well, don't every Englishman think they're Arthur?
Yeah, I'm sure Charles does. And as you can see here, they're having a problem with mail service as well. Because it's Earth Force, and they're not part of not part of the Earth Alliance anymore. So, how are we going to get products back and forth? So, yeah,
Well,
kind of
how's Garibaldi supposed to get his pepperoni?
exactly.
Discrimination.
Yeah, Phil would say that. Phil would say that. It's in Italian. There is Arthur. But as we go along, we start finding out the real story behind Michael York's character. And he's suffering from basically post-traumatic stress disorder. The big thing is he was on board the, I believe it was the Prometheus, the ship, that opened fire and started the whole problem with the Earth-Minbari War. He was one of the gunners. And, of course, that's affected him, and now he's doing this great quest going around. And of course, you can kind of start seeing that there's a little bit of that with Babylon 5 as well. One of the inspirations, you might say, with the character. If anyone has any more to say about it?
Nope.
It wasn't an episode I particularly cared for.
That's pretty.
Nothing against Michael York, but I just could never keep my interest on the episode. And I like things that revolve around medievalism and King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. But this episode just couldn't hold my attention.
Yeah, I don't know. I just found it interesting, and I'm sure people obviously do this, is they block out certain events and then they change themselves so they don't have to deal with what happened in the past or what happened in the future.
And that's what he's doing here. Because he feels responsible for starting the war, he's trying to block that out of his mind so he doesn't have to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. And, which is quite understandable. That guilt that, basically you didn't kill, basically feeling you didn't kill anybody, you murdered because they didn't do anything. And by that, it escalated into this war of genocide. One of the interesting things, of course, he kind of bonds a little bit with good old, our favorite Narn, Chinkar. But I have to agree with you. This episode
has a better chin than Cash Money, by the way.
Yes.
But I have to agree. This episode was. I felt that. And there's Jakar being knighted by King Arthur himself. But I have to agree. I think Michael York was really wasted in this episode. I was really hoping a lot more. I don't think it was anything of Michael York's fault, but I don't think that role really befitted him that much. Because he is a great actor. He really is.
I think they could have done better by just dropping the King Arthur, but just keeping what happened to him and how he reacted just like a normal person. He didn't have to refer to him as King Arthur, Though people tend to, when they go through trauma, or people that always believe in reincarnation, always tend to pick somebody greater than what they are. You don't see somebody saying, well, I was reincarnated, but I was a baker. Or I was a farmer. They're always, oh, I'm Cleopatra, or I'm King Arthur, or I'm whoever. Always bigger and better.
Right. And for him, he feels he's on a noble quest now too, because there's a bit of a redemption story that goes on with the King Arthur myth. Especially when you have like Lancelot and Guinevere and himself. Of course, his incestuous relationship he had with his sister, not knowing, bringing forth more, the son.
Mordred.
Mordred, thank you. I had the more part, but it's like, no, I'm not going to say Morgana. It's Mordred. And it depends on which, of course, version of the history of Arthur you have. There's different takes on all that, but
The
it's that story
most
that
modern one is more French influenced than
very very
closer
much
to
so.
the historic or the early versions of the myth.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? Lancelot. That's a French name,
Mhm.
so that's influenced by the French.
Yeah,
part of the
Lancelot
story.
Dulac.
Guinevere. You can say they changed her name to a French style name more than it would be Celtic or Celtic or whatever early English. No,
Mm-hmm.
so
Right. Yeah, Morgane Le Fay. Obviously that's dealing more with your the Britain aspect of it, but you do kind of have that one aspect. You had the tie, the connection between this is the final battle between Arthur and Mordred and how that started. And that was where the armies were sitting in camp as the talks were going between Mordred and Arthur. One of the soldiers sees a snake, draws his sword to kill the snake, and the other side thought, "Oh, this is a sneak attack," and basically an innocent act of just protection begot this mighty battle, which eventually sent Arthur to Avalon. The tie-in, of course, Michael York's character opening fire on the Benbari cruiser, which I can see why maybe if somebody who's interested in that history kind of glommed onto that and used that. I don't know. That's my take of it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Hearing nothing. Wow. But I agree.
I don't think you're wrong. That's why I got nothing to add.
You're sorry.
Okay.
I just like to know where he got the outfits and the armor and the sword in an advanced year. I don't think that would be just laying around for him to pick up.
Atlanta Cutlery, where I get mine.
He could have been to a shop on Earth. Maybe there's a resurgence in cosplay.
I mean, I got my swords in chainmail, so and I made my own chainmail. So, and of course, Garibaldi's big fight with getting his pepperoni.
Yep. Mozzarella.
And it's not going well. He's got to pay extra.
Admiral Paul complaint. This is so racist. I blame Cash Money for
well,
the
postmaster. Postmaster says we're no longer part of the Earth Alliance. Things are more expensive now.
Pay up, or you don't get it.
Okay,
that's Phil. That's
I will say this as an Italian, and this is reference in Italian. The pepperoni wouldn't be a big deal. It would be the pasta and the tomato sauce. That would be the big deal. Not being able to get that.
Mozzarella? What about the mozzarella?
No, not as important.
Well, to Garibaldi, it was.
Espresso would be more important than the mozzarella.
But okay. Well, a little bit of fun. And again, this is pretty much more of a filler episode and kind of, a little bit of history of the Earth Benbari War, what brought things about. So we're going to go to the next episode. It's called Ship of Tears. Guess who's back, by the way?
And anytime he's back, it's trouble.
Yep. Yeah.
Mr. Morden.
Yes. Mr. Morden. And how odd
I would like to meet the person that designed these spaceships because they remind me of a crab. When I see this, I just see giant crabs, and I'm like,
they are. Yep.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. It's they're supposed to have that crab insect, whatever look to them. Even the shadows themselves they're supposed to creep you out.
Yes.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But Bester, oddly enough, finds himself at odds with Inside Core, and he's seeking Sheridan's help. offering information about the shadows in return. Meanwhile, Jakar is pressing hard. He wants to get part of this conspiracy of light. He has not been joined in, and he knows something's up. He knows that you know that he knows that, and so on and so forth. And he wants to be part of this. And they're trying to decide whether he should still be brought in or not. Dylan is contemplating on it. And so those are the two big things about this episode. And as you can see, the shadows are having fun. And I should go the other way because these things are always backwards. So okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Mr. Morden is not Morden, but Bester in the Star.
Bester, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
of course, they're getting the news from. Oh, look, they had a new newscaster. They're basically getting the propaganda from ISN,
Right, and
Yeah.
you know, Bester's always the same. He's like, it would be in your best interest to help me.
Mhm.
Basically, it's like, no, jackass. I'm
Mhm.
not sure about that.
Mhm.
Yep.
God, I love those new universe forms.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And it's basically involving around things like the telepaths. You know, they refuse. You know, if you don't want to be part of the Side Corps, you have to take drugs. And
Right.
basically to suppress your
Mhm.
abilities. And those if you
Yes.
don't do it, you're sent to re-education camps, one of which on Mars,
Mhm.
and they're called blips. Well, this is where we kind of get something interesting about it. Can Bester love? Is he able to love? And that's what this is about. Bester
Mhm.
is all concerned about
Right.
someone he met in those camps.
Yes.
And of course, Sheridan's flying one of the new Star Furies. And what do you do about Bester? They keep themselves at a distance so he can't read his mind.
Right.
He's talking. I got. I'm wanting to work with you on something very important. And the big thing is he wants to do something about his love, his blip, you might say. And there's an interesting thing about this. This episode had Walter Koenig and Bill Mooney together in a scene. That was the first time that a Lost in Space regular and a Star Trek regular acted together in the same scene. Was this episode?
You know, that was a historic moment. I mean,
Mhm.
two actors from two totally opposite TV shows, you know, actually end up acting opposite one another. And then, of course,
Mhm.
this. Can I go ahead and say the second time that Lost in Space actor acted opposite a Star Trek actor?
Yeah.
Well, it was on Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Mummy
And
was
Mhm.
wearing a Starfleet uniform.
right. Yeah, he was actually offered a role of an alien. He refused that, which was a big meaty part. He refused it because he was tired of playing an alien, especially after playing Lanier. And he came
Mhm.
back and played that character, even though it was a smaller role than what he was originally offered. And it also shows another Babylon 5-star that went over to Star Trek. So, yes. She hates him. She hates him.
She hates him with a passion. You can
Mhm.
For
see it
good
in her
reason.
face.
After what
Yep.
happened with. Yep.
Nothing, mother.
She's looking
Yep.
at him like Cash
Yeah,
Money would look
I
at
didn't know.
somebody charging him $70 for a video game.
There better be a lot of content on that video game. Somebody's going to charge me that, Phil.
Yeah, or he's going to give the Ivanova a stink eye.
I'm just going to roll my eyes, if
Mhm.
anything.
And of course, Jakar coming out of the shadows, begging to be part of this army of light, this conspiracy. But look who's in the center seat of a White Star. He was on the center seat of the Enterprise, especially in Phil's favorite movie, Star Trek V. Now he's on the White Star, trying to rescue his love from the shadows, because she's being used as basically something to be plugged into the ships, like we learned before.
Yeah, to where she would have full control of the ship.
Become part of the ship, and of course that by itself twisting her existence, you might say. Of course, we're having that heart-to-heart between Delenn and Jakar about what's going on. Needing to know, is he worthy of being in there? They, kind of reflects back to the scene from the pilot when he's trying to get support to go after Sinclair, and she does the little bit, speaks about the Great Council, and she tries to, express to him that she should never do that again by increasing the gravity around him and causing him immense discomfort, you might say. And a threat that if he ever did that again, she'd off him.
You do not want to mess with Delenn.
No. We all talk about Ivanova. But
Delenn, you don't mess with Ivanova, and you don't mess with Delenn.
Damn, I wish we had strong women back in the 90s.
I know. Gosh, man.
We never had them. Not on any of our sci-fi shows.
I didn't know.
No, nothing at all.
No strong women at all. They're so weak. Men has to do everything for them.
We needed strong redheaded women back in the 90s, but we didn't get that.
We did too. We got Lita. We got Lita Alexander.
There was some.
Don't forget Major Kira.
There you go.
There was some.
Cash Money was against redheads from the very beginning.
I can't be against redheads. That's ridiculous. There's so few many. There's not many, actually.
Yeah. I heard you call them soulless gingers more than once.
Soulless gingers? Yeah, I did not. That sounds like a new sci-fi show. Soulless gingers.
Ooh, that would be starring Eric Cartman and Kyle Brokowski. And what we have here, of course, is a White Star gathering up the.
I still love the design of the White Star. I really do.
Yeah, organic. Very, that combination between Vorlon and Minbari, because you can see that organic look in the Minbari ships, and also the Vorlons. It just it looks alien, but it looks cool. Sometimes when they do some of these ships, it loses something, but not this one.
No.
Ooh, icky poo. And as you can see there, those are some of the telepaths that are now in cryogenics that were going to be plugged into the ships.
Yep, and then they find that woman because Bester
Carolyn
actually loves somebody. Yeah.
Hard to believe he loves somebody. He's married, but he's married because he has to. He has to keep the line going. But this blip is someone that somehow warmed his heart, and some of the shadow technology that's implanted on her. So now comes the big thing: is what do we do with these? What do we have here? These, of course, agents of the shadow kind of look a little like grays, a little grayish. The bioengineering doctors, and you can see what happens. They want to connect themselves to machinery,
right?
Which she promptly does. So it's like, how do you get her out of there? How do you stop what's going on and not kill her, because Bester doesn't want her dead?
No.
And when the Psycor logo goes out there, it gets zapped. Why is that? Well, shadows don't necessarily like telepaths. You can see as they kind of describe how the human is kind of the essence of the shadow vessels on that. So we kind of have a little agreement between Bester and Sheridan. They'll keep them on ice on Babylon 5, and yes, they become something important down the road.
Great acting by Walter Koenig in this episode too.
Yeah, you almost feel sorry for him.
Yeah, almost.
Almost, you almost feel for the guy, which is important. You know how you take a bad guy like that and
Yes.
kind of tug on the heartstrings.
Yeah, and then there's no misunderstanding. You know who exactly Bester is, but yeah, it looks
But
like
you
he
can
might actually have some feelings potentially.
Well, yeah, and it's great because you're showing that these bad guys, and yeah, he is a bad guy. This isn't an adversary, but a bad guy, a villain.
Yes.
But you can also see that they're even villains. They're not 2D. They're not
They're not mustache twirling villains.
right. They're layers, like onions. But
Mhm.
they're stuff. They do have loves. They do have
Many
passions.
layers.
Yeah.
They do think they're doing the right thing, or they wouldn't be doing it. So, and you start seeing that out there, and you can start appreciating about Bester, but it still means you don't like him. So
Yes.
they agree to keep those telepaths, those blips that are been perverted by the shadows. And guess who joins the Army of Light? Citizen Jakar. And of course, nice look of the new war room on board Babel 5. And just to let you know, the war room was originally the casino. They took the casino set and they took it down. They realized we're not using the set much no more, and we need this big room. So let's turn it into the Army of Light war room. And that's how this room came about.
Great reuse of practical set.
Exactly, which the show had to do. I mean,
there's Garibaldi reading the
Book of Jaquan.
Jaquan. That's what it. Yeah.
And please don't thump the Book of Jaquan. As Garibaldi figures out some of the important things about what the shadows are doing. So leave it to Garibaldi.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts about this episode, Ships and Tears? I wouldn't say. I'm not going to even say this is a filler episode because this is a run up for that's going to pay off on more than one front. I would say
that's an important episode to watch.
You might not think so at first, but you get paid off down the road. And I think that's the big thing about Babylon 5. Something gets dropped, you're going to get paid off. This show is Chekhov's gun. If they're going to introduce something, it might take a season or two, but you're going to get pay off.
Yeah, they'll give you the setup, and then they'll give you the payoff, and they'll give you plenty of nooks and crannies on the way to that payoff.
Exactly. One of the things too about this episode, now that Bester's been on board the White Star, what's that going to do? Now, he knows what the White Star is. So that's an interesting little.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma because that makes you think, well, who else is going to find out about the White Star?
And people did ask about one thing because, of course, the Book of Jaquan was very important in this episode. And one person asked J. Michael Straczynski, how could Jaquan and the Narn's telepaths fight the shadows if the Narn telepaths were all killed? And he stated that those were the last remaining ones, the older telepaths. Their children all killed. Too old now to produce any further children. The technology of cloning our genetics was still beyond them. So basically, in the story of the Last Crusade of Khan is actually quite interesting. And he was saying he was hoping to flesh it out a little bit more. But basically, the young ones were killed. These were the old ones. And that was the last of their line as they battled the shadows on Narn, which was all in the Book of Jaquan. If you don't know, come on, read the book. Read the book. Open it up. Read it.
Read the book.
Read the book. Any other thoughts before we move on?
No?
Okay, excellent. And we will move on to the episode called Interludes and Examinations. on Babylon 5. The quick down on it, Sheridan tries to rally support for his cause as direct confrontation with the shadows begin in earnest. There's also friction increasing between Londo and Mr. Morden. And this episode, we get to see David Sheridan, John Sheridan's dad, who was played by Rance Howard, the father of Ron Howard, who unfortunately passed away a few years back. And Jesus Trevino is also the director on this one. So this episode's a bit important on this, and with everything involving with because you're going into that shadow war with this. This is a kind of an important episode with Babylon 5 because of what good old Sheridan does. Of course, you have the shadows attacking the Donna Blind. There's one of the Gaiam, named after Neil Gaiman, making it look like one of the characters out of his Sandman series.
Mm-hmm.
The shadows out there just causing trouble. They're following reports what's going on, and they know they have to do something, but they're not quite there yet. Plus, you have Mr. Mold and basically bribing his way onto Babylon 5. Anybody can be paid. And of course, then you have Stephen Franken, where he's taking a few steps closer to Lord Krit's favorite storyline, as well as Cash's and the others, the walkabout.
Yes.
But his increasingly use of stems is getting to him more and more to try to keep up with what's all going on. He feels he's got to be constantly there, constantly about. So stem, and it's starting to affect him. And it also comes down to a bit of a confrontation between Sheridan and Mr. Ambassador Kosh.
Yes.
So,
Right. Well, Sheridan was starting to get frustrated with
mhm,
what's he's not giving me answers, and we need answers.
right.
So yeah. Mhm.
And we need more than just answers. We need support. We need help. Why
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
the shadows are out there?
Right.
They're making themselves known. Why aren't the Vorlon
Right.
uh, getting involved? Why aren't you helping us out? And
Exactly.
he's more than willing to confront Kosh on that one because he's been learning lessons from Kosh, and as a Padawan, you might say, rather
Yes.
impatient, and rightly so, considering what's going around him. And now you have agents of the shadows on board the station. Oh, what happened? Oh, and there they are, the
Yes.
shadows, Mr. Morden and his friends.
Yeah, some friends.
Yeah, friends like these. Who needs enemies, right?
That's right.
Exactly.
Some of the members of the non-aligned worlds, as they're talking with Sheridan about what's what to do, how to be, how to get support, how to battle. We're seeing, of course, within the med bay, Franklin having issues with being on stems, snapping at people,
Right. Yep.
angry. Obviously the side effects of the deprivation of sleep and the drugs running through his system,
Yes.
lashing out at everybody, including Garibaldi,
Right.
who's recognizing he's got an issue.
Yes.
Which in and by itself is a strong storyline on this one. Leading up to
Right.
the
But
walkabout stuff. But
they took this it just went on too long, I think.
Mhm.
They should have cut it
Right.
at some point. A
right,
few
there should have been a
episodes
lot.
in and be done with
Mhm.
it.
Exactly. Good old Londo himself, and basically telling Molden to bugger
Yep.
off.
Bugger
I
off,
don't
and
want.
they say, "Oh, really?" Warden's
Mhm.
like, Yeah,
Mhm. I thought we had a deal,
that's right.
Ambassador.
Hmm.
Well, I hate when that pops up. There we go. I love the ominous lighting that you have on there.
Yes.
And you're also finding out that this is kind of the same way that the shadows were doing 1,000 years ago. Basically, doing all these seemingly random forms of attack, quick form of attacks left and right, just to keep people off. Kind of a quick guerrilla. What would you say? Psychological warfare.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Or like back in the day when they would launch expeditions.
Mhm.
mhm,
The military would launch an expedition. Its sole purpose is, yeah, they might be fighting as they're going along, but it's not to conquer. It's to go there, invade, and then get out.
mhm, right.
You know? And that's how the shadows operated. But they also operate by making other people fight their battles for them.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then
Yes.
afterwards coming up and taking out both sides.
Yep.
Mhm.
Manipulating people and so on. Yep.
Destabilizing. Yeah.
Yes.
So, so with that, of course, we have this going on between Londo and the Agents of the Shadows, and we have Sheridan in his battle with, basic confrontation with the Vorlons.
Well, I personally, I can say I can understand why the Warrens aren't going to just be the superheroes. We'll give you what you
Right.
need,
Mhm.
and
Oh.
no more, no less than that.
Right.
And sometimes that works.
Right.
I mean, if you look through history and look at especially our great country, we did that a lot. We give
Right.
you what you need, but not necessarily
Right.
do we need you to win the war.
Right.
Correct.
You know?
Mhm.
So
Well, plus they don't think it's their time yet. They feel it's too early for them to get involved in this battle. They don't want to get in too soon. They figure if they do that, they'll lose advantage. And of course, Sheridan just won't hear about that.
I gotta head out. Thanks
okay.
for having me on, Baron.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Hopefully see you next time there. Anything you want to say before you go there, Lord Krit? Or everybody's here welcome?
We're getting in probably the best part of Babylon 5. Getting close to it. I think this is where it's strongest. No.
Yes.
That's no, Phil. God.
No.
Phil.
No.
Phil.
I like Space Jesus. It's very inspiring.
You did not. You just
Yes,
like
I
to mock
did.
people with it. I don't believe you.
Brothers and sisters.
Yes. Sing it. Yes, money knows the word.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to know
Paul,
the
Right.
words.
We should have
Thank you
Paul
for having me on.
Yes.
You're always welcome, my friend. Okay, take care. Have fun eating your krill, Mr. Orca.
Yes.
Later, Krit.
Bye.
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 And then there was 4.
I wish we could get, and I'm going to say this a lot, I wish we could get Paul to continue this show. And I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
I should ask
you.
him.
You will have a better chance of enjoying Space Jesus and the Doctor doing his great walkabout on the stage.
Oh, no.
Take one day, but imagine taking about 12 episodes. I mean, how many times you got to do a walkabout on the space?
Oh man, I know, man. Seriously, it's crazy. I don't know why they just wanted this to continue throughout the season. It's crazy.
Well, that's something to ask JMS if you ever.
Yeah.
Heck, just send an email to him. He responds to him. I'm serious.
Okay.
Find out. Whatever.
Does he pay attention on stuff on Twix as well, or whatever?
He might. Yeah, he does. He does answer stuff. So.
I have to admit I am curious. I know it's been many years, but I guess he could probably answer that. I'd be interested to see what he says. Yeah.
He one thing about JMS is he was and always still is very interactive with the fans. I mean, I sent emails.
Well,
to him
you should be, Baron. You know how this goes, man. You should be interactive with the fans,
even above and beyond when he sits back and answers personal emails. I can't remember how many emails I sent. We've sent back and forth, JMS and I, asking questions, and very gracious. And here is a man who's writing all these episodes, involved in the show, who knows what else. Now he's sitting down and reading through who knows how many emails and answering them.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, give that a shot. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. He really appreciates his fans, and you're right. But I mean, he even takes it to a new level. It's like wow.
Well, everybody should, man. You don't need to kiss these people's asses. You just,
No.
you don't have to be rude to them either. But a lot of them
Hmm.
seem to want to be rude to the fans. I don't know. It's something.
No, and he's not. He really
Right.
isn't. I mean, as long as again you're respectful, ask questions,
Mhm.
and be intelligent about it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And if you go in there as a complete total Boy
Yeah.
idiot,
Yeah. No, it's not gonna get you anywhere.
right. Mhm.
No.
The confrontation between Garibaldi and Franklin about his stem use.
It's fine. It's under control.
Uh huh.
Come
Right.
on. We're
Mhm.
buddies, right, Garibaldi?
Mhm. And you're forgetting one thing. Garibaldi's an alcoholic. He knows what
Exactly.
this stuff is. It's like don't
He
bullshit a
understands
bullshitter.
addiction. Yeah.
hmm I mean, that's basically Garibaldi's approach with it. Don't bullshit a bullshitter. You got a problem, man. I know it.
Yeah.
And it's not a happy confrontation, that's for sure. But Garibaldi is doing an intervention because he genuinely likes Franklin. It's a friend,
Yes.
a pal.
Notice he's wearing a black T-shirt, something that DJ Ronnie G could be wearing.
Oh boy.
DJ, don't listen to him.
Phil.
Phil, jeez, man.
I am on a quest to get him some color T-shirts.
I'm sure he has some, dude.
Yeah,
I think
and
he showed one recently. Yeah.
and of course, as we saw in that picture, he was a bodybuilder. I mean,
Okay.
you could tell he
Well,
was in shape there with that picture.
It's
So
pretty cut. Yeah.
That look right there is gives me the it says in my head that's the exact look a cashier would look at cash money after he complains that it's a $70 for.
Oh boy, here we go, dude. You tell me, Phil. I want you to tell me what base game is worth $70.
I would tell you that Hogwarts is worth $70.
Yeah, but the deluxe edition. But anyways,
Still you said just name one, and I did.
But the base game, man. I mean, 60. Yeah.
There's no expansions for that yet.
There is a deluxe edition that's $10 more though. That's where the 70 comes in.
So of course, Garibaldi and Franklin have their encounter. Of course, you have Sheridan trying to figure out what the shadows are doing, and he's trying to think like the shadow, which of course Delenn doesn't want. You don't think like him, So many things when you hear about military commander, I'm trying to get in the mind of my enemies, and he starts figuring out what's going on. Thanks to Delenn intervening, it hits him. Boom! This is what they're doing. And of course, Garibaldi is going around talking to Dr. Hobbs, who's in the lab and trying to get information.
Who works with Franklin, right?
Mm-hmm. Trying to figure out what's going on. And of course, Franklin, notices what's going on. He's not very happy about it. And she's a very pretty lady, too. And she's, by the way...
I want to say this, Baron. I want to believe that men and women would have to be pretty physically fit to run around stations and just. I mean, yes, it's possible there could be bigger people on the ships or the. But I would think.
But think about living constantly in an artificial gravity environment.
Right.
Right. But they're also military, so they got to keep up to a military regiment too. So,
right, exactly.
Even though Franklin's a doctor and in many ways a bit of a pacifist, doesn't agree with a lot of things with war, he still has got to stay in that military shape. And got to remember who his father was too, General Franklin. So, yeah, I mean, especially when Franklin was going after Garibaldi for his health, and it's like time for your checkup. Oh, no, this isn't good. This isn't good. This isn't good.
Right.
So, but of course, he oversees Garibaldi talking to the Dr. Hobbs, who, by the way, was named after an English fan who was also a doctor. Won a contest to have a character named after themselves. And what we got going on? We, of course, good old Vier going over stuff. Mr. Molden. And I have a little confrontation between the two here and a little talk. What do you want, Veer?
That smile is so
Yeah,
something.
isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like,
Good
yeah,
smile.
snake salesmen all across the board.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mhm. And an unhappy Franklin confronting, of course, Garibaldi. Why are you getting your nose into my life? And
Right.
it's like, hey, I'm there. I've been there. And Franklin coming to realization he does have a problem.
Yes.
Garibaldi's not being an asshole. Yeah, he's being a hard ass, but he's not
Mhm.
being an asshole.
No.
Now we kind of get to a little bit of a crux here. Confrontation between Sheridan and Kosh.
Mhm.
Come on, get involved.
Yes.
No, back and forth, the anger,
Mhm.
the frustration. Get off your encountered suited butts and do something.
Mhm.
And finally, pissing off Kosh
Mm-hmm.
with what
Yep.
he's doing.
Yes.
Kosh pretty much tells him, "You don't speak to me like that."
Mhm.
Yeah, who do you think you are? And basically lashes out at Sheridan. Boom. It gets a little bit of a bitch slap from Kosh.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But Kosh agrees. But states, if you go to Zahadum, you will die.
Yeah.
So he's got his little memorial scar. He's talking to the League of Non-Aligned Worlds. Oh, a little bit of talk there with the Dr. Hobbs. And that's where Londo loses his true love. If you remember
Yes.
from the first season, and is poisoned. Good old
Uh-huh.
Molden notices what's going on,
Mhm.
and what way to get Londo
Yes.
back on board?
That's
Well,
right.
and make it look like Lord Rifa
Mhm.
did it.
Yep. Lord Rifa. Yes.
Again, it's the politics.
Yes.
It's the politics.
Yeah. It's a manipulation again from Morden, but
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna get what's coming to him. So, which he deserves, I would say.
He definitely does. So, and of course, a lot of conversation between them. Of course, he becomes the image of his father. And of course, it's basically symbolizing, that father figure. Kosh is trying to be that father figure to the Sheridan, trying to guide him through, shepherding the younger races, trying to understand where things are coming from. Of course, Rance Howard doing a great job. Great actor he was. He really was.
Mhm. Not
And
surprised.
of course, this is all happening in a mental image as Kosh is being attacked by the Shadows. And the Shadows, in retaliation for the Vorlons getting involved in the war, well, they killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They killed Kosh. Yeah.
But there's a part of Kosh still alive inside Sheridan. And there's, of course, Mr. Molden watching the whole affair going on.
Mm-hmm. The
And,
weasel that he is. Yes.
mm-hmm. And of course, Sheridan waking up and realizing, his dream was Kosh basically saying goodbye. And such, almost kind of saying, "Yeah, you're right. You're right." And there you go. There's his helmet.
Mm-hmm.
And for many people, this was a very powerful scene for Babylon 5 because even though he was a prominent character, even though he wasn't in so many scenes, it was a source of strength. This is one of the older races. They're here to protect us, and now he's gone. He's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And the shock, everything behind there. And of course, Mr. Londo, who's all set up to go, he's more than willing to side up with Mr. Morden after
Yeah. Mr.
believing
Morden.
that
Yes.
Rifa was the one that killed his beloved.
Yeah.
So a lot of grief between Londo grief. And you kind of seem to notice that with some of these episodes. If one character is having a problem like this, another one is, but for different reasons and different outcomes.
It makes sense.
Exactly.
It's not just thrown in there for the sake of throwing it in there to add a little bit more meat to the story.
Right. Well, it was also easy for Morden to start manipulating Wando again because of his lust for revenge.
It's the Centauri way.
Mm-hmm.
He's like Phil McCracken that way. His lust for revenge. And of course, noticing that as the show went along, his outfits got darker and darker to match the direction of Wando in the series.
I like that. Yeah.
Where he was going as a character.
So, basically on two sides of the fence, the light and the dark, both experiencing tragedy, both affecting what's going to happen with this war between the two of them. Wando, again, embracing the shadows. Sheridan, basically, what do? We got the Vorlons involved, but it cost me so much. It cost me my mentor. And now we have the third thing in here. We have Franklin announcing that he is going on a walkabout. He's taking a leave because of his problem. He needs to find himself.
Yeah.
And whether or not Sheridan likes it or not, he respects it. And, it's like, you're welcome back anytime. I need you.
Right.
No, this is not the best time to go, but I understand. And then we have the final thing. The Vorlons tell them to put all of Kosh's stuff on board his ship. The ship takes off and flies into the sun. That the Babylon 5 is orbiting around. Basically, the ship is so tied into the Vorlon that the Vorlons did. Now the ship goes. Kind of a Vorlon form of a Viking funeral, you might say. Final thoughts and ideas or thoughts about this episode of Babylon 5.
Great episode. Because it adds more weight to their situation. More gravitas.
Definitely not a filler. That's for sure.
Oh no.
And and then we're having that, as the one person goes, that the mentor always dies in heroic sagas, which seems to always be the case. And JMS responded to that was, I think Kosh sort of hit the wall when he saw that Sheridan wasn't going to go away. He was there. And JMS goes, I think finally he was ashamed and recognized his fear, and in a sense, the air went out of him, and he reconciled himself to what he had to do. So it's interesting that he's pointing the fact that Kosh was afraid of all the people, and he goes, "You're right about the mentor. Sooner or later, the mentor has to step aside or fall by the wayside for the others to grow into that hero's journey." Originally, this was slated to happen a bit later. I think on some level, I was reluctant to do it because to write this kind of stuff, you have to feel it yourself. I think I was avoiding that as much as Kosh was avoiding his fate. I didn't want to go through writing that, so I kept putting it off. I knew it had to be done, but not yet. So, again, it's part of that hero's journey that goes in there, which is so prominent in storytelling. Of course, obviously Star Wars with Obi-Wan and Luke, Merlin and Arthur. It goes on and on and on. So you can see that classical mythology storytelling that you have here. And he kind of goes on, and that's when, for lack of better explanation, Kosh stepped up and began to pull me in that direction in the script. It was time. His passing shouldn't be fretted away or minimalized, which I don't think it was. It should happen at the right moment, and this was the moment. It was almost impossible to describe this to a non-writer, but the character, this fictional construct, was simply determined to have his way, and that the end and that was the end of it. I kept trying to dance away in the script to go back into safer waters, but each time I was pulled back to this direction until finally I had to admit that yes, this was the right time and the right way to do it, and Kosh fell. But what finally convinced me was the realization that this was not only right for now, but right for later, though you won't know what that means for a while yet. So, yeah, I mean, again, even this has ramifications for the future involving Sheridan and Kosh.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Kosh is afraid. It didn't seem it, but he was. He was hiding his fear, even from himself. So I think that's kind of a powerful thing. How many of us want to admit our fears?
A lot of times we try to suppress them.
Mm-hmm. You want to delay the inevitable. You want to, you think about religiously. Christ in Gethsemane. Let this crowd, let this cup pass from me. He knows he has to do this, but it's like, let this cup pass. But it still goes forward. If you take a look at it in the Christian religion, you'll find it in a lot of the other stories the same thing. It's like, do I have to really go down this road? Do I have to find this route? And you start finding out that your heroes and your mentors are just like you in that aspect. This is where you can sit back and say that character is me. But that character being me is for all of us, because there's something in that character that touches all of us. It's not that character happens to be, pronoun, this, that, whatever, representation. The character represents what's deep inside of us, our feelings, our fears, our dreams, the things that drive humanity on, not validation.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other thoughts about this episode? Because, Londo's path, Sheridan's path, and of course, everyone's favorite, Franklin's path.
Yes, what a path.
Okay. Well, I think I was going to leave it off on here. We've been about an hour and a half. We've been on this. Don't want to bore anybody else more. We'll pick up with one of the more seminal episodes of Babylon 5 next time. It's actually a two-parter, War Without End, and probably even go into the episode of Walkabout as well. And everyone's favorite episode, the episode that J. Michael Zazinski says he wants to go around and knock on every fan's door and personally apologize for. Gray 17 is missing. Probably the only true real stinker episode of Babylon 5. Or I should say half the episode.
Well,
the other half is important. The Lynn story is important.
Mm-hmm.
Gentlemen, any thoughts about the stories, the direction the show's been going, characters wise, story wise, mythology wise?
It's going in a good direction.
Yep, it is.
You would have known that in season 1, but
right
between season 2 and season 3, heading into season 4, it's going in a very good direction.
Yes. Where the bloodlust that Londo is going to feel and continue to feel through the rest of the season, and Sheridan's journey, as you mentioned, and dealing with Kosh, and then of course, if I remember correctly, there's going to be a replacement of Kosh, because of course there's not just one Kosh. Yeah,
right.
But I love characters like Morden, because it's just he smiles in your face, and then he's ready to stab you in the back when you turn your head.
Well, yeah, he's charming, but he's an oily charmy. He's
like,
it's like, you're a snake, aren't you?
Yep. Exactly.
He's everybody's friend.
That's right. Yeah. Right.
Mr. McCracken, any last thoughts from you, sir?
The only thing I can say off the top of my head, season 3 is great because if you notice, the staging is better, cameras are better.
I mean, that's a big deal.
Yes,
Bill,
it
so-
is. Clothing
Yes, it
is
is. I
better.
agree. I agree.
Whoever
Mhm.
came up with the idea of changing the uniforms when they declared their independence, that person deserved a raise because I would say this: the new uniforms they get when they declare independence are 1,000 times better than that. Let's just say that bad gray uniforms they had. I didn't like,
They were all right. I mean, I've seen
Yeah.
worse, dude. But
Oh yeah, I didn't think they're that
but
bad.
I would say overall from out of the acting part, since we covered most of that, yeah, the stages look better. The arts and designs look better. Their CGI looks better.
Mhm.
You know, if you compare this to season 1, it's like night and day.
well, they probably have a bigger budget for one
Yeah, they
thing. The
did.
show becomes more
But
popular.
but like I said, it does show. It does
Mhm.
help.
Yes.
You know,
Well, what
even
also
though we
helps.
get
Is that something you would like to work on, Phil? Like, if you had a chance to work on a set, would you like to do the costumes, help with that, and
I
the
would tell you this.
and the
I like it.
CGI and
I think people miss or let's just say don't prioritize their wardrobe
okay.
Mhm.
and their sets as high as they should. Very few shows stay with the same style set. You don't see a change.
Mhm.
SG1, for example, that set, I'm talking basic set at the base.
Right.
That
Mhm.
never changed, which is good because it shouldn't change.
Right.
Everything that outside the world, when they went to other worlds, that should change. But
Okay.
when it comes to this, when it comes to Babylon 5, this is for me what makes it more pleasant to the eyes. And I know they didn't have the same budget as like Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Right.
Let's
Right.
be honest, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, you can't argue from start to finish that their staging, their wardrobe, everything was on par.
Mhm.
They didn't have to go through this like they unfortunately Babylon 5 did. Like I said, I'm not knocking season 1 and season 2,
Right.
but season 3 is like night and day.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
So for me, all the episodes are better just in that pleasing to the eyes.
Mhm.
So, but the only complaint I still have is if you look at season 1 design of Babylon 5, the space station, it's not the same space station you see in season 3. It's changed. It's small changes, but if you take a picture and look at the season 1 Babylon 5 station and you look at the season 3 station, night and day difference.
Mhm.
That's something I can pick up.
Well,
I
I'm
can
sure
see
they
the
would upgrade the station, wouldn't they?
Would they? I mean, we have that
Maybe.
one. We have that real space station floating around our planet right now. They ain't changed that much.
That's
You
true.
know.
No,
Well,
but this is the
But
future,
still,
Phil, and
Yeah, but
exactly.
even in the
Mhm.
future, you didn't. When you have the Enterprise A, if you want to call it that, what changes do they have in the A? The A is always the same. They don't reconfigure the inside. The only time they reconfigure is when something happens to the ship, gets destroyed, and they get a new one.
but Phil, you're not going to have a station like Babylon 5 out there in deep space and have it with outdated technology. They're going to make sure
Yeah,
that it has constant upgrades.
doing it inside.
You can't compare, and you can't compare it to now, Phil.
No, but I'm just saying, if you take it, if you're doing upgrades, okay, but that's not going to change the outward appearance of the space station.
Depending on what they add, it might.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, it might.
yeah, I mean they
Okay.
added a new defense
Any
spread. They even need that new one.
I'll give you an example that
any expansions that they add to that station, because we don't know what type of expansions that station was designed to have in the future.
I will say
So
that
it will change its configuration.
if you look at a cruise ship today, if one was made 5 years ago and it's still cruising today at Caribbean, wherever, Do you think they changed the interior that much in 5 years?
They might, depending on what the
Depends,
company
yeah.
calls for.
Yeah, it's true. Like I said, I can see interior. I'm talking exterior. You're not going to get an extra 5 feet added onto this cruise ship. That's not going to happen. It ain't going to grow. This change. If you look, like I said, look at the first season. Look at the first images of Babylon 5.
Well, let me bring you a historical comparison, Phil.
Go ahead.
The Olympic class liners of ships, the Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic. There were some features that the Olympic didn't have when it first launched that were then added to Titanic. And then they looked at these features on Titanic and they added them to the Olympic, and then they added them to the Britannic.
They did, but they didn't grow once the ship was sent out of the dock. They didn't get an extra 10. 2 years later, the Olympic didn't get an extra 10 feet.
That's true, but also keep in mind, they went to a different VFX company between season 1 and season 2.
That I understand. I mean, it'd be like taking the triangle form of the Star Destroyers in Star Wars, and then 5 years later, the rear end doesn't have a flat butt. They gave it a bubble. Something you wouldn't, like I said, you would notice these things. I noticed these things. You know.
Well, again, better budget for a VFX. They can afford to add more features onto the station.
No, I agree. But like I said, you had like a basic little round cone cylinder floating in space, and then next thing you know, it's got an opening bay. Okay, we didn't see no opening bay in season 1. I'm not sure about season 2, but we definitely see open bay in Babylon 5. You know,
which opening bay you're talking about? Which opening bay are you talking about?
The cargo base where they bring the ships in.
Well, that lower part was always there. Yeah.
No, the basic one is, but then they had like they're like
the top one.
Yeah, the top one.
Yeah, the top one was always there. It just wasn't prominent. That's all.
Like I said, I noticed these things. I'm a nitpicker, man. I'm going to nitpick.
Well, then let's take.
All right, I think we all are to an extent.
Yeah, we are. Well, you're a king at nitpicker, but
you're right. If I see someone driving down the road and they have a Cougar sticker on a Mustang, yes, I'm going to nitpick it. If it doesn't say Mercury, it's not a Cougar.
Well, I mean, let's take a look at another real life example, and that's the R101 that the British had. It was built by the Germans, but it entered into the British Royal Air Force. Well, along the way, they wanted to expand on it, and they actually lengthened the R101 itself. So she was actually lengthened up by the British, but unfortunately, them doing that didn't really help out with the structural integrity, which helped to cause the crash. You know, basically a crash, and not be usable no more. Crash and burned in 1930. So, yeah, I mean, you do have situations where they do something like that for a lengthening, but I really didn't see much of that lengthening with Babylon 5. But only thing was the CGI was impressing. They left Foundation. Foundation went to Star Trek. Well, I think the DS9, and of course Voyager definitely. And then it was Netter took over doing the special effects. Netter Digital. So
I think, like I said, next time take a look at season 1's Babylon 5 and look at how it's shaped, and then you look at it in season 3 and you're like, is that the actual same space station? I mean, look, Deep Space Nine never changed.
Dirty Kardashian station.
We'll give them credit. Kardashians could build a good space station, man. Give it to them. You know? No, but I mean, I'm just saying what I pick up. And like I said, it's a comparison. A lot of things are, like I said, uniforms look better. The cameras they're using looks 1,000 times better. You know.
Well, I think
it's not busting on what they got for their budget. Just seems like they got even They got better. As you say.
Well, I think what the most important thing is they got used to doing because the sets were designed that you could move the sets around because they didn't have the space. So, basically the walls were all movable, so they could make new rooms out of them by doing so. But I think what happened is the show went along in the early days. It was trying to get the hang of it. But as the show went, as it going on, okay, now we're getting the hang, improving. We're getting into the swing of things. And such, and now they're becoming more of a polished machine where they weren't.
We've learned more, right?
Right.
We've learned so much more after the first season,
And like I said, I think the wardrobe, not just for the recurring cast, but even the guest cast, their outfits are 1,000 times better than what they had for people on season 1 and 2.
Well, as we've said before during these Babylon 5 talks, you're not going to put a whole lot of money into an unproven show in season 1.
Exactly.
Right.
Babylon 5 had to prove itself, and as it proved itself, they started increasing the budget little by little.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how
it did become
supposed to go with this stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
it became the flagship for Primetime Entertainment Network.
If you're comparing to first runs of starting out shows, they gave a good budget to a Space Above and Beyond. They had good CGI. They had everything. That was first time for them people stepping out into the sci-fi world. SG1, same thing. There were no guarantees.
Well, it's the people behind it, though. You had people that were starting those shows that had a track record.
I mean, like I said, I'm not comparing it to Star Trek because they already had their budgets. Their budgets are guaranteed more is going to be high end. And yes, these other shows are one-time deals. Didn't.
Babylon 5, along with a few other shows, were supposed to be the main event headline for a proposed 5th network.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have Babylon 5 and these other shows. You can only allocate so much money to each of the shows.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying it got better.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, most of the time, some of these places, they didn't get the budgets.
Right.
But I'm saying it has improved. It's more pleasant to the eyes. If you're somebody who's never seen Babylon 5, and you're saying, I'm going to show you one episode from season 1, and I'm going to show you season 3, you can tell the difference.
Right.
But you can't really judge the show by the look of the set, the look of the costumes. Judge the show by the stories that are being told.
The story is always going to be the most important.
Like I said, I noticed, like I said, the stage. I noticed their looks. Like I said, costumes to me are better in season 3. But I mean, there's a lot of comparisons I can give you. But I'm just saying, they're not the first ones to step out there.
Well, and you were talking about budget, and how Space Above and Beyond got a bigger budget. Well, one, it was on a real network at that time.
Yeah,
Primetime Network wasn't. And the people who started the show already had a track record. These people, Glenn Morgan and James Wong, who did Space Above and Beyond, were also involved with X-Files, which was a massive hit.
Yes,
so they were more than happy to put the extra cash their way because they figured these guys have a track record.
Yeah, but there are some sci-fi shows proven to be successes, and their budgets get cut.
Right,
and they still manage to put out. What I'm saying, like I said, their show is you're not seeing the difference in the budget on the show with their cut. Example: Buck Rogers, first season, major hit. Money put there. Season 2, not a big hit. But you couldn't say there was no CGI. You couldn't say there was no wardrobe or anything. It was still there. But you knew there was a difference. Because
did CGI really even exist, though? Really?
Yeah,
Buck Rogers season 2? I mean,
not like we have it today, but look at Babylon 5 and CGI.
I mean, you had starting out, let's just say, with shows like Battlestar Galactica and Buck Rogers. Same people. They're the same production, same thing. Some things got recycled.
Right.
To Buck Rogers. But it's like I said, it's not always you start out with less money and then you end up with more as it gets hit. Buck Rogers was a big hit. yet it got less budget on season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I
that
think that's
more than anything, if anybody wants to say why there was no more season 3 of Buck Rogers, was because enough people can notice that okay, this staging isn't as good as it was in season 1. Just the episodes, the wardrobe isn't as good. It was good. It was okay, but it wasn't as great as it was in season 1.
well.
Sometimes some of these places, some of these companies and shows do take a step back.
Well, the thing is with Buck Rogers, it suffered a bit because of the 1980s writer's strike on
Yes,
that
it
one.
did.
You had Gil Gerard getting involved more in the show. He didn't like how the first season he wanted to change, which the show. The big thing with that, they changed the direction of the show, which hurt it. Putting him on board the Searcher, got rid of some very popular characters like Dr. Huer and Dr. Theopolis. And basically turned into a poor version of Star Trek.
Yes.
And
that's not.
I mean, the only good thing about
season
two, the only good thing about season 2 was they added Hawk, played by Tom Christopher, who was a great character. But other than that, everything about that show and Gil Gerard getting involved with it and trying to turn Buck Rogers into something that wasn't Buck Rogers is what killed season 2. It wasn't Buck Rogers no more.
The one thing I remember that irked me was a Colonel Daring. She was awesome in season 1, and then season 2 she became Dairy Queen lady.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. And that's one of the things that Gil Gerard wanted. He didn't want that competition with her. There was strife between those two, and basically, they had to keep her, but let's push her back. Let's put her into the background more because this is Buck Rogers' show, not Wilma Deering. Gil Gerard's a bit of a prick. He really is.
Wow.
And Gil, if you're out there, I'm just relaying what a lot of people talked about you.
That's the one thing I have never heard any discord from any of the Babylon 5 cast. You didn't have that. You heard it in other ones, sci-fis, but never from them people.
Well,
you never heard anybody say, well, Poindexter, the guy, Scarecrow, Mr. King guy. You never heard to say, oh, he wanted more camera. He wanted more. I mean, look what happened as years went on, and we found out that original Star Trek crew couldn't get along.
Well, the only strife we really had with Babylon 5 was with Michael O'Hare in the first season. And I guess things got so bad between him and Jerry Doyle that they almost came fisticuffs. But, as it comes down later on, we found out the reason why. He was suffering, from schizophrenia, which is why he left the show. And that's basically about the big thing that there was strife on board the show was him. But it was more him battling his mental illness that was the issue than anything else. And, mugging for cameras or stuff like that. And Jerry Doyle being, even though, still kind of a newcomer to a lot of this stuff, a consummate professional. They said, as JMS says, he might have been out drinking all night, but he'd be right there on the set, even with a hangover, ready to go and hit his lines right there. Boom. And he expected everybody else to do the same. And Jerry Doyle did have some issues with some guest stars, one of which was an Academy Award winner, because he didn't feel they were taking the parts and doing it serious, and he dressed them down in front of everybody. I don't know which guy it was. I don't know who it was that he did that to. But that's about the only thing you really heard about discord on that set. There were, obviously they had differing opinions and stuff. They debated, they discussed, but when it came right down to it, they're a family.
There's a lot of these sci-fi shows you'd be surprised. You don't find out till later on what happened and why. Oh, this person left the show. What was the reason behind it? That at the same time this show was going on, we had Deep Space Nine, and there was a lot of questions on certain people. Why did this person decide to leave the show when there's only going to be one and a half more seasons left? We find out years later why that, and she wasn't the only actress that had a complaint. The lady that played
Dax,
the one in Voyager, the captain. I can't think of her name.
Oh yeah, Catherine. Yeah, Kate Mulgrew. Yeah,
she voiced later on after the shows were done. She voiced the same thing as the actress that left Deep Space Nine.
Mhm.
You know.
Well, the thing about Kate Mulgrew is she and Jerry Ryan did not get along.
Oh, and that's something that we didn't know 2 years later.
Right.
You know?
Because
I think that actually came out because the guy who played Kim, he was one that revealed it. And he was trying to get them back together to, make peace. And yeah, that didn't work out too good.
Yeah, because she didn't like Jerry Dole. Not Jerry Dole, but Jerry Ryan coming in to do that part. Thought that was taking too much from her, and all she is boobs and butt and hips, and Kate Mulgrew wasn't very happy about that.
No, there was an episode. There was an episode. The one episode where 7 of 9 was supposedly watching. I forget the half human, half Klingon lady was having a relationship with Tom Harris, and she was recording it, putting it down, and creepy. But that was how the script was written. And the one actress didn't like the idea of Star Trek going into too much sexual.
B'Elanna Torres was 3/4 human, 1/4 Klingon. Just to let you know.
Once a Klingon, always a Klingon. Even if they have half, they're Klingon.
Yeah,
but I mean, like I said, Deep Space Nine. It's like I said, I loved it, even when I watched it back in the day. But like I said, for me, the show, eyes, in particular my eyes, it got better after season 3. It got really better. I would say it put it on par with what was going on at the time with Deep Space Nine and Space Above and Beyond.
Only lasted 1 season, but yeah.
No, and yes, I believe Stargate started when the same Babylon 5 season 4 started. So they were in good runnings at that time. I think they were on equal par with everybody, if not close to it. So,
but yeah, Stargate SG-1 started in 1997.
Yeah, and for me that was a good time because look at that, we got all that sci-fi all at one time. We could watch as much as we want. Growing up as a kid, you only got 1 season of Battlestar Galactica. Star Trek, the original, just the show was done, and cartoon was only 2 seasons, season and a half. So
2 seasons.
Didn't have much till the movie came out, the original. So being there in the early 90s and mid 90s. You got sci-fi galore.
Oh yeah,
and don't forget you had the Serbo one too, Andromeda.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of sci-fi out there.
Yeah,
we didn't have as a kid.
Farscape and Lex and all sorts of stuff. It was a time to be alive.
It was.
Okay, any other thoughts before we get going here on what we saw here so far this season and such? And going once, twice, hearing nothing. Anything people wanted to announce? Going on, plots, plans, shows. Start with you, Mike.
Tomorrow's Pop Talk at 1 p.m. Eastern.
We've got.
Yes, we do, Baron. Every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern and every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Although this Wednesday's show will only be on Rumble.
Oh my!
How elitist of us! Oh, my nose is up in the air now. Oh, and what about Sunday? You were saying something about Sunday, tomorrow's show?
Yes, tomorrow's show we have several topics to talk about. One about Christopher Eccleston, talking about what it would take for him to return to Doctor Who.
Oh God!
I read some of that.
Yeah. Only confirming what I heard. That's all I know.
I thought that was pretty interesting, so we are definitely talking about it.
Yeah, I think it's worth talking about, especially with all these Russell T Davies himself there. Stams. Yeah. Okay. Looking forward to it. I know I got a couple cents worth on that one.
Mhm.
Okay. And how about you, Cash Monet of Phantom Hooligans?
Of the hooligans, no.
Hooligans.
There'll be some surprises on the hooligans. It's not yet. I'm disappointed what happened on Friday, but things will be fixed. So.
Yeah. Well, that's it's understandable. Understandable. And am I a hooligan yet, or do I still have to go
Probably.
through?
I don't know. You might
Okay,
have to go
cool.
through some kind of training.
Well, that's what I want to know. Is there like
Well,
some initiation and
I don't
learn how
know.
to do that?
Maybe.
Okay.
What about my application? Has that been accepted yet?
Maybe. We'll have to check it.
Okay. Do we get
Oh,
blood thins?
that means it's still in the to be approved stack.
I
It's
hope we
like
get blood
Rumble and
spins.
Synced, right? Yeah, I'm sure.
That'd be great. I want that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I hope. Yeah. I'd love to. Especially we do a surprise Dark Tide coming up here.
Mhm.
Boo to you, you systems
Well,
out there.
It's
you
just so
goblins.
weird because the full screen with running certain games, even if you guys ever play like the Halo collection,
Mhm.
you those older games, they don't run well in full screen. I'm like, isn't this the Master Chief collection? Aren't these
Mhm.
supposed to
Mhm.
be, this stuff work properly? And it's just it doesn't. So for some reason with Dark Tide, maybe it works for Mike or whatever, but other people are having the same issue I have, that the borderless full screen is what works on both Slobs and OBS Studio. It's crazy,
Mhm.
but if it works, then it just works. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I think it was because it was all blurry. I think your computer was drinking.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
wanna
I
believe
think that's
that.
the computer version of beer
But
goggles.
there's no point of putting out any kind of stream when it's blurry. I mean, if you're
No.
doing a panel thing, it's going to be all set. But when you're doing a gaming stream and it's blurry, it's like,
Yeah.
and you should accept that. Never.
No,
No.
never.
It looked ugly. It really looked ugly. Folks.
Yes.
And but I want everybody to know it wasn't Cash's fault. Even though he's got to learn to lock his liquor cabinet and keep the computer away. That's all I got to say.
Right, because that's
It
the
was me.
computer.
It was
I
I sent the gremlins over to
he's-
Cash
he-
Money's
he
Windows
sent-
98
He
computer.
sent
and
he
take
sent a
it down.
virus. No, I
Mm.
wish.
I believe
Windows 98, XP. If you guys remember, those were some dang good operating systems for the most part. And 7, but now it's like we're going to have a
Mhm.
Windows 12. Why should we be excited about that? What are they going to break this time?
Because they
Can't
want
wait
you
to
to
see.
spend $80-$90 Cash Money.
Oh boy, I can't
Didn't they
wait.
just come
No,
out
what
with
they're
something
going to
not too
do,
long ago?
what they're going to do is give you an upgrade. It'll be a free
You know
upgrade.
what?
So
I thought I heard Cortana saying to you last night, "Just one more, Cash. I
Just one
promise,
more,
I'll be
right?
fine."
One more.
Well,
I
Cortana
don't
doesn't
have
even
a
look like
problem.
Cortana anymore. They changed her look. Whatever.
Honestly, Cash, I don't have a problem. I have this under control.
It's like Franklin.
Yeah. I got this under control. Really, honestly. Staggers, falls. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. How about you, Mr. Phil McCracken? Do you have anything in the pipe for some?
Nothing to the beginning of next year. I have
No.
to wait and see how things are going with my health. But yeah, I'm waiting for Cash Money to do this Among Us stream, and I'm okay. Another thing, Cash Money gets my hopes up and then only lets me down.
He did say in 2 weeks for that Among Us stream.
Yeah.
2
You know,
weeks.
Phil,
You know that translating Cash Money's time for us it'd be 4 weeks.
yeah, you know him. Yeah, Phil's got selective hearing. Absolutely selective hearing. So, people don't mind him. We don't.
Yeah. Cash Money always lets me down. But I'm not alone there. I'm not alone there.
You're not alone there. Okay. Well, don't let me down. Okay. And with that, I want to thank everybody who stayed. Oh, hi. I want ma'am. Better invite Phil and Cat.
Will there be snapper soup? I'm coming if there's snapper soup.
I
And by the way,
told you.
that's me that says about eating turtle, not Baron.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see. Don't. It's that evil troll beneath me there. You know, the one
Hey,
that's under the bridge.
snapper soup is good. Turtle soup
Okay.
is good.
And with that, I thank you all. I want to, well, let me go do a quick one. The people who came in, I noticed Leah Rose, of course, the president and sole member of the Phil McCracken fan club. Everyone's
With
favorite
1,000
penguin.
members.
Yeah, all bots. And of course, everyone's favorite penguin besides Punk Bottle, by the way, lowest big Linux laptop. Two Penguin Center, one Penguin leaves. We had Brandon Looney Tune fan 2000 something. He was there. Chase, before he fell asleep, he was here. Good to see you. And we had DJ Ronnie G and his magnificent turtles. And then we had Mike Finney. Thank you for joining. And of course, from me to you and to the people on my panel, I wish you all a great evening, good day, wherever it is that you are. And have a good night. See you next time. And again, follow these people as well. Thank you so much.